Hi guys, Jean here. I hope you can see me clearly. I am in the bedroom again, hiding out. Welcome to my channel. And if you're new here, please like and subscribe. If you're returning, thank you so much. I am so grateful for you, helping me along in this journey, sharing my life with you guys, sharing stories. And for the last couple of days, I've been sharing my spiritual journey, where it began, which is interesting because it began in Ontario, in Toronto, when I started high school at 34, meaning the age of 34. And that was a journey because when I started, I didn't realize I was on a spiritual journey or I was seeking something. It's not until I got introduced and got in at the ashram. I mean, prior to that as well, I think I've mentioned mostly a lot of the books that I have read. And I've read a lot of books on spirituality. You can go back. I recommend that you go look at my first video. And if you follow all my videos, if you look from the first video to now, you would catch up. But even if you haven't looked at my first video, I'm from the Caribbean, but I live in Canada. If you want a little bit more information on that, you can hit me up, DM me, send me a message. I would love it. So, I've been talking about my spiritual journey and being at the ashram, the Yoshoda ashram in BC, which is British Columbia, Canada. It's in the interior of BC. So, that is a place that I have gone and did my program and got integrated, and it gave me a lot of insight into my life and a lot of lessons. And I share most of the lessons that I've learned from the ashram in my previous video. I know I'm going to constantly mention that because I cannot really continually go through all the videos that I've already done. But you get the idea, this channel is not only about spirituality, to be honest with you. I'll be sharing my wisdom, I'll be sharing the fact that I wrote a book. I'm going to be sharing about my travels, my solo travels to Australia and Bali, and also my travels with a friend throughout Europe by train. And you guys have some really good content coming to you because, especially for the ladies, the black women from the Caribbean, I hope you can hear me. Especially for you ladies who want to travel mostly more abroad, maybe not just come into Canada or America, you want to go to Europe. I can really give you some insight and some information on how to travel that cheap, even when you're broke. But you want to travel, you're kind of broke, you don't know how to do it. I'll give you a few steps on how to do that because it's not really rocket science. It's basically just having a little bit of confidence and a little bit of boldness, a lot of courage, and buying a ticket, honestly. So I'll give you guys information on that. To be honest, this is not where this video was going. This is not what I came on to talk about. I came on to just to chat about, I'm transitioning from the ashram and life is going on. But before the ashram, long before the ashram, um, I was in a mental hospital in the 1980s. So, guys, it's a long time ago. My mind is very stable. So don't come for me. But in the 1980s, in just about early 1980s, I had what you would call a breakdown. And to be honest with you, that's the worst thing. That's one of the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. I think there is two things I think that I consider as worst things that happened in my life, but that was the most difficult, the most challenging, the most heartbreaking thing that can happen to a woman in on a small island in the Caribbean. And I'm saying that it is the worst thing that can happen to a woman on a small island in the Caribbean back at that time, because even now it's not really something, right? Back at that time, I was in my 20s. I'm now in my 60s, and so it's a long time ago. And I wrote a book about it. I wrote a memoir about my time, really not just in the mental hospital, but what happened to me. So, what I'll do is I'm going to try my best um, to put a link for my book in my videos, right? So that way you guys can read my book and read my story and see what it has to say. It's not an expensive thing, but I recommend going and read my book. You would not regret it. I'm still kind of ashamed of this book, in the sense that I wrote the book and I published it on my own, and I know nothing about writing book and publishing book on my own. And yes, I did have a very good editor. Thank God for this, woman that edited my book, which I had to pay for. And let's not forget, I paid money to publish this book, so it wasn't something that is cheap. None of it is cheap. And I'll tell you the story about my book in my other videos as I go along. So stay tuned for that. You are going to really love, 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 love my content. So stay tuned for that, right? Yeah, you're gonna just love it, because there is so much I have to tell you guys, and so much you're gonna learn, and you're gonna be so excited to learn all this stuff, because honestly, you cannot not be. You just cannot. Because guess what? I am full of wisdom. Yeah, I'm full of wisdom, and I want to share that wisdom with you. I don't want you to make the same mistake that I have made. Today, as you could look at that, I have what you might call it. When I remember, I have a mic. I've never had a mic before, and so, anyways, I feel. Anyways, I have a mic, right? So, so back in the 80s, back in the 80s, the early 80s, I had a mental breakdown. And to tell the story, the story is quite, it's very interesting story, because for many years I didn't understand for myself what happened to me. And when you live for many years not understanding what happened to you, to me personally, when something happened and you cannot really grasp the beginning of it, because the truth is, I have never ever felt like I had lost my mind. So let's make this clear. I've never felt like I was crazy. Nothing about me was crazy. However, I was coming from a party at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was with a friend. And back in around those time in the Caribbean, I mean, it's still going on now. Um, we used to have a lot of what you call voodoo, and it's like hoodoo or voodoo, or obia. We used to call it obia. Every Monday morning there are certain people that would go to the obia man to see how their life going, which now I'm learning. Now I know for sure that voodoo or obia, it's not really a bad thing. But back then, that's what it was categorized as. If you're going to the voodoo, if you're going to see how your life going, or you're going to, the obia man, whatever name you want to give it. Back then, we used to call it obia, and they still call it obia now in the Caribbean and in Africa. I think I can only speak on the Caribbean because that's what I know. And I can only speak on Grenada because that's what I know. I cannot speak on any of the other Caribbean islands, right? So to get back into the story, my friend that I was walking with, um, hanging out with. She was a good friend of mine. I've known her. We live in the same small community, in the same small neighborhood. And that particular friend, well, she was basically every Monday morning, she was at the Obia Man, right? I have never been. I don't know what it feels like to this day. At this age, I have never ever experienced going to an Obia man or a voodoo person or someone who can do bad against other people. It's just, it has never been, and never, it just never, I just never did, because I was afraid. To be honest with you, I was always afraid because, it's all about bad, or that's what they say. It's a bad thing. They do bad things. And from what I gather from my friends, when she go there, or when her other friend, when her and her other friends go to the Obia man, they were actually going to do something bad to someone else, or something that you call bad. For instance, let me give you an example. Maybe some woman take their man and they want to make the woman suffer. They go to the Obia man. Maybe somebody do them wrong or harm them, and they go to see the Obia man about it, or the Obia woman, because it's both. But so in my life at the time, you have to remember, I was in my early 20s. So back then, the Caribbean island was like a rural countryside. Rural countryside, with people talking about, who do who and who did what and what they did. And so I was coming from this party, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, or 2:02. It was around 3 a.m. because I used to party a lot. I'm not, yeah, I was a party person, you know. Every night I would go out to some party with my friends and them. And so we were on the hill. Like, I live on a golf course. Well, not on the golf course, but the area, the community is called, the neighborhood is called the golf course, because we have a golf course, a literal golf course, on top of the hill where we live in the neighborhood. So I live as you're going up the hill, before you get onto the flat of the hill that takes you up to the golf course. So the whole area is called the golf course. To this day, that's where you can send me my mail. You can just say Golf Course, Gene Roberts, Golf Course, St. George's, Grenada. We do not have postal code or anything like that in the Caribbean. You have to go to the post office to get your mails. Now, coming back to that, so we are on the hill. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Me and my friend is coming up, and all of a sudden, I had this awareness that, I don't know, I think is my spirit said to me, because it was very clear in my soul, very clear in my spirit, that this woman, this friend of mine that was walking with me, she has gone to the Obia man for me. So I was on the hill, and I started to shout out, everybody, calling my neighbors, hey, everyone. Um, I'm not going to call the woman name, but I mentioned her name, and I said, she did something to me. She did something to me. She went to the Obia person for me. And I started saying that out loud, and, blah, blah, blah. And the way the golf course is, well, the way the hill is that goes up to the Gulf land, there is houses on both sides. So we are walking up, and there's neighboring houses, right? We are very close to our neighbor. And our neighbors was older. We had like okay, I'm not going to call names of my neighbors right now, because most of them has passed on. And so I started shouting. I got home to my house. I went into the bedroom, and I wouldn't stop. It's like I had that break. I had that out of my body breakdown. Now, if this was modern day, I would just have a break, and you would take me to, um, a psychiatrist or a psychiatric ward, and I would get exam. The doctor would probably give me an overnight pill and send me home, and you wash your hands and that is it. But that's not how the story went. So I did have a bit of a break, but I didn't lose my mind. And within that little bit of a break, that break that I had, that because I was, losing it. Of course, I was like, oh my God, this woman, blah, blah, blah. And I was sensitive enough to know that this is something that she did. And it took me years to really, really start deeply believing that that is what happened, because my spirit, it's like, this come to my spirit, this come into my soul, into my body, into my mind. I knew it and I know it and I still do now, but I had refused to know it for like 25 years after it happened. But anyways, so my sister and them, apparently they took me to the doctor, and of course I did went into a psych unit, and for the weekend. And inside of that psych unit, to this day, the doctor still cannot tell me what was wrong. Believe it or not, I have went back and inquire and investigate and do all those things. Hence, I end up writing the book as to, you know, it's just a pocket in my life. So I wrote the book about that pocket in my life, and but so I stayed at the psych ward for the weekend, and mainly slept, because when I slept and I dreamt, I dreamt that I dreamt that I was sleeping in the valley for 40 days and 40 nights. Don't ask me. I don't know why I dreamt that. But I dreamt, I can't remember all the things that I dreamed, but I know that I dreamt about this 40 days and 40 nights like in the valley somewhere. And then when I wake up, and apparently what it is that I slept the whole weekend, really. And of course, the doctor at the time had put me on lithium and on Valium, right? At that time, I don't know what lithium did to your system, and I didn't know what Valium did to your system. And I'm going to continue with the story in my other video, because it's just a long story, but I'm going to just finish off the weekend here. So the doctor literally gave me lithium and Valium, and on hindsight, when I look back at how it all played out for almost a whole year, or at least a couple months, um, it's because he gave me a heavy dose of these medication, which it's possible I didn't even need medication. I just needed some Tylenol to rest, whatever, right? But anyways, that was the beginning of the mental and emotional and physical abuse that I got, um, as this played out for the next couple of months. So I'm going to continue with the story where I came out of I came out from the psych ward for the weekend, but again, I'm living on a small island in a small community, and apparently the medication that the doctor gave me, it's almost was so much that when I arrived back in my neighborhood, when I came out, it was almost like I was moonwalking, right? Because all of a sudden, everything I do become a slow motion um, movement, and so it seems like I was actually living in a slow motion kind of way. I wasn't myself, and I wasn't walking or doing or speaking, like myself, because I had too much medication. And what that trigger was the people in my neighborhood, my neighbors, the people I see every day that come to my mother yard, that, I used to talk to my friends, all of them. Well, we'll talk about my friends, what happens. with my friends, but my neighbors, they started to shun me. You know how they shun Jesus Christ? I'm not saying that I'm Jesus Christ, so don't get yourself tied up. But my neighbors, when I come out and I started to walk in the road, well, because it's a small community, the people that know me, they don't know what happened to me. They don't know, they make assumptions and they would cross the road. So that was the beginning of me being shunned, if that's the right word, almost like I was being persecuted in a way that I myself couldn't comprehend. Now I'm going to stop the video here because this is a kind of heavy topic, but follow along with me and I'll tell you the rest of the story, and I'll tell you how I were able to transition out of that, how I got through it, why I got through it, who helped me to get through it, and I'll tell you all the things that happened. But I'll also put my book so that you can actually take a read, and you might have a little bit more insight. But if you are a person that have mental problems and mental issue, I want to tell you there is nothing to be ashamed of. It took me 100 years, well, not literally speaking, but it took me a very, very long time to actually step out of the shame of what happened to me in my own home with the people that I consider my friends and my family and my neighbors and people that I love. I become a single woman on an island. Oh, I forget to tell you, please subscribe to my channel, share my channel, and like, right? Because you're going to be helping me. I am going to put here, this channel, I'm building this channel as a place where I can document my stories and document my life so that this can stay here for a while. I'm also doing this. I love to use my hands. Could you tell I'm always handsy? I'm also doing this because I think it's a nice thing to do as my retirement as well, a fun thing to do, to come and talk to you. I know you're listening. I know you follow along in this story, and I know you want to know more about this story, and I want to share more with you, and I can help you get out of really, really, breakdowns. I can help you through those things because I have gone through it. I'm not just speaking out of my behind, so to speak. I can really help you get through the tough times, the hard times, the worst thing that ever happened to you in your lifetime. I can help you get through those things. So stay with me, come back to my channel, and be a part of this beautiful Caribbean woman gig. Have a good evening, guys. Okay, I'm